The AFC North is pretty much the roughest division in football. Give me the fallout. How in Kevin's, in your perspective, how's the AFC North going to follow? Your preview, I guess, for the AFC North.
Yeah, so this is definitely one of the toughest divisions in the league, and I think it will be for a long time. You know, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, whatever the Steelers are going to do at quarterback, maybe they'll figure it out. But I think this year it's a two-team race between the Browns and the Ravens. I have both teams finishing at 13-4 with the Ravens winning on a conference tiebreaker. I think they're both going to be that good. And for me, the Browns and the Ravens both addressed their needs in the offseason. The Browns struggled in the secondary in 2020. They went out there, they got John Johnson, they got Troy Hill, they drafted Greg Newsome. So they did a lot of things on that. They're also getting Odell Beckham back, who I think is going to be rejuvenated. So I think that those two teams will be the two big dogs in the AFC North. I also don't think either team wins both games against each other. I think it'll be a 1-1 split. Baltimore will probably win that home opener or home game for them, and then Cleveland will win 2 weeks later in Week 14 in their home game. The schedule kind of worked out a little bit weird for Baltimore. So the Browns and the Ravens have Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. And so that's kind of like a divisional stretch there for them. It goes into their tough back-end schedule. The Browns, on the other hand, have Baltimore by Baltimore. So the Browns have a bye in between their two games with the Ravens, while the Ravens have to play the Steelers at Heinz Field. So, look, the Browns are a talented team. I don't think they need like some schedule boon to help them out or anything. But that does not help the Ravens in any way, shape, or form. And the Ravens have said, look, some things work out in your favor with the schedule, some things don't. So that's one thing that definitely doesn't work out for them. Pittsburgh, in my opinion, I hear people saying they're going to be a 4-win team, a 3-win team. I don't think that's it whatsoever. I think they're still talented, but it is fair to question what Ben Roethlisberger is going to be able to do this year after the kind of collapse the Steelers did have in 2020 after a blistering start. The offensive line is a question mark right now. They lost a couple key defensive starters, added a few as well. I see them around 9-8, 10-7. I think that's where I am with them. Still a good football team, but maybe in the competition for a low wild card spot in the AFC. And then finally, Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati is interesting because I'm honestly more concerned with their defense than I am their offensive line. The offensive line is not great, definitely. They upgraded. Look, Riley Reif is an upgrade from Bobby Hart 10 times out of 10 on that line. But Joe Burrow coming back from that injury, Jamar Chase has had some drop issues. I don't know if I'd feed too much into that early on. If it continues, then it starts to be like, oh yeah, this is becoming an issue. But overall, I think that the Bengals are probably a 5, 6, maybe 7-win team this year. But then, I mean, the next 5, 7 years, if all three quarterbacks can stay healthy, I think that the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals all have the potential to make the playoffs with each other. 3 AFC North teams in the playoffs for the next multitude of years, much like we saw with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland last year. So I have Baltimore and Cleveland finishing 13-4 each, with Baltimore on top. I'll call Pittsburgh 10-7 right now, and then I'll call Cincinnati 5-13. The 17-game schedules, I'm still getting used to it. So those records are a bit difficult, but that's where I am with the AFC North.
I understand, Kevin. Last one. Let's bring it here local for me. Looking from the outside, looking in on the Bears. What are your expectations for them this season and what they have done, and how would you bring along Justin Fields?
Yeah, well, look, first of all, I want to say the Justin Fields pick was phenomenal. My dad is a Vikings fan, and he was not happy when the Bears jumped up and made that selection because he knew what Justin Fields is going to be. My family's huge Ohio State fan, so I know what Justin Fields is going to be. Now, how would I bring him along? I mean, look, Justin Fields has shown it in the preseason. He has shown that he is the future for the Chicago Bears. But I know a lot of people have been giving Matt Nagy some feedback, and not very good feedback, about his decision to go out there and start Andy Dalton week 1, which doesn't seem like it's changing. Which, I mean, look, it's fine to start, but I'm giving it a very short leash. I mean, if we're talking week 2 and Andy Dalton is putting up even like mediocre numbers, I think you hand the keys over to Justin Fields, and that it's both a good and a bad situation, because you don't want to throw Justin Fields into a fire where he is very inexperienced. He starts to struggle a bit, starts to get down on himself, and then something like that happens. But at the same time, one, Fields is a more talented player, so you're probably going to get better results. But 2, having him learn in those game situations against good defenses isn't just going to help him in his rookie year. It's going to help him for 10, 15 years, which I think a lot of people are expecting him to stay in this league as a starter for that long. So I think overall the Bears did do some good stuff in the offseason, and obviously Allen Robinson returning is a very good piece of news for them. But in terms of Fields, I think by the time the Ravens play the Bears, Justin Fields will definitely be the starter. And I'm excited to see what he can do against the Ravens defense. It's very talented because it's going to be a good matchup.